The world profits from your feeling of lack. Most people believe scarcity is economic. It isn't. Scarcity is psychological. Because modern society no longer merely sells products. It sells feelings of insufficiency, not enough money, not enough status, not enough beauty, not enough success, not enough time. And once people feel incomplete, they become controllable. This is one of the most powerful systems modern civilization ever created, because scarcity creates emotional vulnerability, and emotional vulnerability creates consumption. The terrifying part is, most people never realize how deeply scarcity shapes their lives, because scarcity is no longer accidental. It is engineered, and modern systems quietly depend on keeping human beings psychologically dissatisfied. Human desire was turned into an economic engine. For most of history, people consumed primarily for survival: food, shelter, protection. But modern capitalism evolved beyond survival. Now economies increasingly depend on emotional consumption. People buy identity, status, validation, belonging, aspiration. This changed civilization fundamentally. Because once desire becomes economic infrastructure, human insecurity becomes profitable. And corporations realized something deeply important. People who feel fulfilled consume less. People who feel incomplete consume endlessly. This is why modern advertising rarely sells products directly anymore. It sells emotional transformation. Luxury brands do not merely sell watches. They sell status. Social media does not merely sell entertainment. It sells validation. Fitness industries do not merely sell health. They sell insecurity reduction. And once scarcity becomes emotional, it becomes nearly impossible to satisfy permanently. Social media industrialized comparison. Human beings naturally compare themselves to others. But social media turned comparison into a global psychological system. For most of history, people compared themselves to neighbors, classmates, local communities. Now people compare themselves to millions simultaneously. Celebrities, influencers, billionaires, perfect bodies, luxury lifestyles, algorithmically amplified success. This creates constant psychological scarcity, because social media rarely shows ordinary reality. It shows optimized perception, curated lifestyles, filtered success, manufactured desirability. And the human brain struggles to emotionally distinguish between reality, performance, manipulation. This is why modern people increasingly feel behind, inadequate, unsuccessful, unattractive, irrelevant, even when objectively surviving comfortably, because scarcity became psychological rather than material. The economy depends on dissatisfaction. One of the darkest truths about modern society is that many industries profit from insecurity itself. Beauty industries profit from body dissatisfaction. Luxury industries profit from status anxiety. Social media profits from validation addiction. Advertising profits from emotional inadequacy. And this creates a terrifying economic incentive. The system benefits when people feel incomplete, because psychologically secure people are difficult to manipulate. This is why modern marketing constantly communicates subtle messages. You are not enough yet. You need more. You are falling behind. This product will transform your identity, and eventually, people begin consuming emotionally instead of rationally. Scarcity creates obedience. Scarcity also creates fear. Fear of losing money, status, relevance, attractiveness, opportunities. And fearful people become easier to control. Because scarcity narrows human thinking, people trapped in scarcity often focus only on immediate survival. This reduces long-term thinking, creativity, strategic planning, emotional freedom, which creates an important power dynamic. The more psychologically scarce people feel, the easier they become to influence economically. This is why financial insecurity often creates obedience. People afraid of losing stability rarely challenge systems aggressively. And modern economies quietly depend on this psychological pressure. Time scarcity may be the most powerful form. Modern society also manufactures time scarcity. People constantly feel rushed, overwhelmed, distracted, mentally exhausted. This is not accidental, because exhausted people consume passively, and passive consumers rarely think deeply about systems controlling them. This is why modern life increasingly feels fragmented. Notifications, meetings, deadlines, algorithms competing for attention constantly. And over time, people lose the ability to think clearly, because attention itself became economically valuable, and platforms aggressively compete to capture as much of it as possible. The result is psychological exhaustion at mass scale. The attention economy profits from scarcity. Social media companies understand something terrifying. Attention is finite, and scarcity increases engagement. Fear keeps people scrolling. Outrage keeps people reacting. Validation loops keep people addicted. This is why platforms amplify emotional intensity, controversy, insecurity, comparison, social competition, because emotionally activated users remain online longer, and longer engagement produces more profit. Eventually, human consciousness itself becomes monetized. And once attention becomes monetized, scarcity becomes economically valuable. Modern identity became performance. Before the internet, people mostly existed privately. Now, identity increasingly exists publicly, online, visible, measured constantly through followers, likes, engagement, visibility, social relevance. This transformed human psychology profoundly, because identity itself became competitive. People no longer simply live life. They perform life. And performance creates endless scarcity, because there is always someone richer, someone younger, someone more attractive, someone more successful, someone more visible. This creates perpetual emotional dissatisfaction. And perpetual dissatisfaction drives consumption endlessly. Scarcity destroys gratitude. One of the most dangerous effects of modern scarcity culture is that it destroys contentment. Because people constantly focus on what they lack, not what they already possess. And this creates permanent psychological instability. People become unable to enjoy success, relationships, achievement, peace, ordinary life, because scarcity rewires perception itself. Enough never feels enough. And this creates an economic machine powered by emotional dissatisfaction. The wealthy understand scarcity differently. Interestingly, many wealthy people eventually stop chasing material scarcity entirely, because once basic desires are fulfilled, they realize something important. External scarcity never ends. There is always more money, more status, more power, more influence, which is why many wealthy individuals eventually become obsessed with freedom, autonomy, time, peace, control over attention, because they realize scarcity is psychological before it is material. And escaping psychological scarcity may be more difficult than escaping financial scarcity. AI may amplify this system dramatically. Artificial intelligence may intensify scarcity engineering even further, because AI can personalize psychological manipulation at massive scale. Future systems may optimize advertisements, emotional triggers, validation loops, social comparison, behavioral persuasion in real time for billions simultaneously. This creates a terrifying possibility. A future where algorithms understand human insecurity better than humans understand themselves. And once systems understand insecurity, they can monetize it infinitely. The system needs you to feel incomplete. Modern civilization depends heavily on continuous consumption. And continuous consumption depends heavily on dissatisfaction. This creates a dangerous reality. Many systems no longer merely satisfy desire. They manufacture desire continuously, because fulfilled people consume less aggressively. But psychologically insecure people become predictable economic engines. And eventually, people spend entire lives chasing emotional completion through external acquisition. Money, status, visibility, consumption. Without realizing the system was designed to keep fulfillment permanently out of reach. The most powerful form of control is invisible. Throughout history, powerful systems controlled people through force, laws, violence, economics, but modern systems increasingly control people psychologically through attention, comparison, validation, scarcity. And psychological control is far more effective when invisible, because people rarely resist systems they do not recognize. This may be the darkest truth about modern civilization. Most people believe they are freely pursuing happiness. Without realizing, entire industries are engineered around keeping them psychologically dissatisfied, because scarcity became one of the most profitable systems ever created. And perhaps the greatest freedom in the modern world is escaping the feeling that you are never enough. Subscribe to Wealth OS for more documentaries on wealth, power, AI, and the hidden psychology behind modern society.